Hey parents, have a special needs kid? I know you've heard it all. The advice from professionals, educators, therapists, and even other parents. But let me ask you something. Have you ever heard from someone who's been exactly where your teen is? Hi, I'm Sukanya. I'm a special educator, a disability advocate, and someone who was just like your disabled teen growing up. I know what it's like to struggle, to feel different, and to face challenges head on. But I also know what it's like to come out stronger on the other side. Today, I'm independent. I've built a life I'm proud of, a home, a career, and a future. And I'm here to share what I've learned, not as just another therapist, but as someone who's lived the journey your teen is on right now. Think of me as a glimpse into your teen's potential future. Let's dive in and talk about how we can help them get there. Together, we can make it happen. In today's video, I'm going to react to a post I came across on Reddit from a parent who's been feeling completely drained and overwhelmed, raising their child with special needs. They're sharing some real struggles, everything from sibling dynamics to sleep issues, and I wanted to take a moment to offer some insights and advice based on my experience as a special educator and someone who's walked this path before. So, let's take a look at this first and dive into how we can support both the parents and the kids through these challenges. I just really need a place to vent my fears and frustrations and exhaustion. We have two young daughters. One, a 5 year old, is a very typical child, and we deal with all of the typical challenges inherent with a 5 year old past struggles, tantrums, and lots of fun as well. Our other daughter, a 7 year old, had a seizure at 7 months old and has since been diagnosed with global developmental disability and epilepsy due to a rare genetic condition. Those of you who may not be familiar with global developmental delay or global developmental disability, it refers to a significant delay in the child's development across multiple areas, such as their motor skills, their language skills, cognitive function. It can sometimes occur due to brain injuries, genetic conditions, or other neurological issues like the seizures mentioned in this post. Seizures can disrupt the brain's normal function, leading to developmental delays, especially when they happen at a very young age. It can be incredibly tough for both the child and the parents, and the uncertainty can feel very overwhelming. She is incredibly sweet with the most beautiful smile and is the best snuggler in the world, but also is incredibly challenging day in and day out. I can hear the love and devotion in their words. Kids with GDD often can be incredibly sweet, but with developmental disabilities, the challenging moments often feel endless and it can be exhausting. I've worked with many kids who go through these ups and downs, and what I've learned is that even in the toughest moments, patience and consistency often lead to breakthroughs. She is largely nonverbal and operates on the level of a 2 year old. She has no real interest in toys and struggles to do imaginative play or really any type of play. Her favorite activities are walks, listening to music, watching movies, reading books, and playing with some sensory toys with a lot of help and input. So, what they're describing here sounds like very typical behavior for many kids with GDD. When a child's cognitive development is affected, like in this case, it can impact their ability to engage in typical play activities. Their daughter seems really drawn to sensory activities. This is also common for many kids with developmental disabilities. It's okay that she's not interested in traditional toys or imaginative play. Sensory toys, music, books are great tools for helping her engage with the world. In my experience, these kids often thrive when their interests are incorporated into daily routines. You don't need to push for them to play the way other kids do. Instead, embrace her favorite activities and look for opportunities to reinforce positive behaviors through them. She has temper tantrums when she's bored or transitions activities, and behavior therapy isn't helping much. Behavior therapy can take time, and when I say time, I mean months, sometimes even years. This is especially true when a child is nonverbal or has difficulty transitioning from activities. More on that in another video. I have worked with kids who were prone to tantrums, and what I've seen is that behavior management often requires patience and finding the right reinforcement system. It's not easy, and therapy may not always give immediate results, but trust me, with consistency and the right approach, things can and do improve. We worry constantly about how her younger sister sees her, as we want her to be caring, compassionate, and loving towards her sister, and this is a source of a lot of worry and fear. Sibling dynamics are tough, especially when one child has additional needs. But remember one thing, this experience is teaching your younger daughter a key skill: empathy. It's natural to worry about how your daughter's younger sister perceives her. It's so nice to hear them say this actually. I have seen siblings unintentionally feel overlooked as the focus often shifts to the child with special needs. As long as you're being mindful and making sure your younger daughter still feels seen and valued, you're doing great. Encourage them to enjoy activities together, but also give her the space to have her own interests and experiences. Helping both of your children understand each other's needs with love and patience will create an environment of empathy, while also preventing any kinds of feeling of neglect. Keyword here is encourage. Don't force it. Our daughter with disabilities also struggles with sleep. She's an angel most of the time at bedtime and falls asleep as soon as we finish reading a book to her, turning off the lights, closing the door. But she often wakes up early, and any change in her routine can really mess with her bedtime schedule as well. So, sleep issues are so common with children who have developmental disabilities. Changes in routine can be especially disruptive. From my experience, creating a consistent bedtime routine is key, and it's important to stick to it as closely as possible. But of course, life happens. So, try to be flexible when changes do occur. It can take time for your daughter to adjust, and it may help to work with a sleep specialist or an occupational therapist for additional strategies. Sleeping in for her is making it to 6 a.m., and she often, like last night, wakes up in the middle of the night and won't go back to sleep. She woke up at 3:45 a.m. yesterday, and my wife and I shared shifts trying to get her back to sleep. This is so challenging. It's very emotionally and physically draining for parents since they're basically caregiving throughout the day as well. I'm exhausted all the time and near a breaking point. So is my wife. We have help, a babysitter who takes care of her from 4:45 when she gets off the bus until 6:30 each day when we are finished with our work days, but struggle with the early mornings and long weekends as she is often restless and it's impossible to relax as she needs constant attention and can't be left alone or to her own devices, unlike her sister, who will watch a movie on an iPad or do some coloring when we need a break or me time. This really speaks to the toll that raising a child with special needs can take on a family. Exhaustion and feeling like there's no break are emotions I've seen in so many parents. It's okay to admit it's tough. It is tough. If you have help with someone who can temporarily take the burden off of you for a few hours, that's a good step, like they've done with a babysitter. It can also be a family member, a paid caregiver, or someone else you trust. Don't be afraid to ask for professional help when needed. We work all day long and then do bath time, bedtime. Finally, we're finished around 8:45 when our youngest falls asleep. He likes to talk at bedtime and somehow are supposed to fit in a workout and find time for things that make us happy and help us relax. It's impossible to do so. That is so true. It's so tough to balance everything, and it's easy to feel like there's never any time for yourself. Many parents of special needs share the struggle. One thing I would suggest is starting with small pockets of time. Instead of having, say, some me time set aside for you, take whatever you can get. Take a 10-minute walk after bath time or do a short breathing exercise right before bed. Even small acts of self-care can help recharge your batteries, and it's okay to give yourself permission to take these moments. Weekends are also a lot of work as we have to constantly pay attention to our oldest daughter and also have numerous activities that are really good for her, like therapeutic horse riding and Special Olympics program. Additionally, like pretty much any of you on here, we also use weekends to catch up on all the chores we can't do during the week: mowing the lawn, folding laundry, cleaning the house, cooking, etc. Yes, weekend should feel like a time to unwind, but I get that they often turn into just another time to work. One thing I've seen with parents in similar situations is trying to delegate small tasks or create a chore schedule that allows for some family downtime too. For example, you could alternate chores or tackle tasks in shorter bursts rather than all at once. And don't forget about scheduling family rest time, even if it's just 30 minutes of quiet time together where everyone can recharge. It's about balance, and that's tough, but finding even brief moments of rest can make a difference. Then vacations come along and also aren't relaxing as we still need to parent, which I'm sure all of you can relate to as well. It's exhausting and feels like we just never get any time for ourselves. We sacrifice sleep to stay up a bit later each night so we can actually hang out, but this results as being tired, so it feels like we have to choose between having personal time or getting sleep instead of having both things going in. When I try to get to bed early, it never works out. I end up getting in bed, reading, watching some TV, and falling asleep around 11 even if I try to go to bed early. So, first of all, there's no such thing as a vacation when you have a child, especially when you have a child with special needs. But this is where expectations need to be adjusted. It's okay if your vacation isn't the perfect getaway. If you can, try to build in moments of relaxation, even if they're small and simple, like having a coffee by yourself for 10 minutes while your spouse watches the kids. And as for sleep, trust me, it's tempting to push it. There's something called revenge procrastination, which we can address, maybe talk about in another video, or you guys can just Google it. So basically, what revenge procrastination does is it makes you want to push back your bedtime because you want to make up for all the time lost throughout the day. And you want some time for yourself. So you keep pushing back your bedtime. And yes, it's very, very tempting to push it. But getting a good rest is key because remember, the next morning you wake up and you're back to parenting again. So, even small adjustments to your evening routine, like limiting screen time or creating a wind down ritual, can help your body get the rest it needs. I find myself getting jealous and sometimes bitter about other parents, like my brother and sister in law, whose kids range from 10 to 20 years old. They have multiple boys, and all of them sleep in late. On weekends, they have all morning from 7 to 8 when they wake up to noon, when their kids start waking up to just do things for themselves, and once the kids are up, they can spend time with them, but also expect their kids to entertain themselves when needed. This type of free time is like a dream to us. Jealousy and bitterness are totally natural emotions when you're dealing with the intense challenges of raising a child with disabilities. It's okay to feel frustrated when you see other families who seem to have an easier time, but try not to let it define your experience. Comparing journeys can be tough, but it's important to remember that every family's path is different. What might work for others doesn't negate the amazing things you're doing for your child. Focus on celebrating the progress your family is making and give yourself credit for everything you've overcome. The other challenge is there are very few support groups I can find to speak with parents who understand these challenges, and given the rarity of our child's condition, it's virtually impossible to find a group specific to her condition. Even broader special needs parenting groups are hard to find. For instance, the special needs parents group here on Reddit is pretty quiet and small. I totally get this feeling of isolation. Finding people who understand your specific challenges can be one of the hardest parts of being a parent to a child with special needs. One thing I'd suggest is looking into online support groups, even if they're broader, and like they've done with the Reddit group. Sometimes Facebook has private groups for different special needs where the discussion can be more active. You could also try reaching out to your child's therapist or medical professionals. They might be aware of smaller or more niche groups where you could connect with other parents facing similar situations. Even if these groups aren't an exact match, the support and understanding you'll find can be incredibly valuable. Having said that, there is a very, very real issue in the entire disability industry in that none of the services or support is really centralized. So you really have to be part of particular networks to be able to access them. And that's something a lot of people, including us, are trying to change and make this entire thing more accessible to parents who need it. I'm just exhausted and frustrated and really struggling with the idea that we won't ever be empty nesters and that our work as parents will basically be full time our whole lives. We employ the help of experts to aid with behavioral therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and sleep therapy. So we're taking all the steps we should be, but it only helps so much. First of all, it's okay to feel frustrated. What you're doing is a lot more than what many people do or can imagine doing. I want to offer a gentle reminder that while the road ahead may look daunting, the love and care you give your kids today is building a strong foundation for their future. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of never having a break, But remember that each small victory, each moment of progress is worth celebrating. I've cut down significantly on drinking alcohol and smoking up, as I worry about the repressant factor of alcohol and the numbing factor of smoking. And I do make sure to exercise at least a few days a week. I also do find some time for myself at night to play a video game or relax, but it's never enough. I find myself daydreaming about quitting my job so I can relax during the day when the kids are at school, but realistically can't afford to do so. So obviously, I'm also resentful about working and exhausted when focusing on my job. It's great that you made some conscious decision to cut down on substances and focus on self care like exercising and video games. But I know it can still feel like you're never truly recharging. One thing I've found with parents in similar situations is that, again, even small acts of self care can make a difference. Whether that's a hobby, a quiet bath, or a walk by yourself, or just sitting quietly for some time, making sure you don't lose sight of your own needs is crucial. It may not solve everything, and it doesn't, but those moments of calm give you the strength to keep going. And don't worry, it's okay to be selfish sometimes. And as well, many parents I work with have moments of burnout and wish they could just take a step back, but they feel trapped by financial needs and the lack of support. In situations like this, it can be helpful to explore flexible work options if possible. Maybe you can speak to your employer about reducing hours or working from home some days, or perhaps creating a support plan where work can feel a little less draining in the long run. I just don't know how to get through this and hate when I lose my patience, express frustration out loud, and reach my breaking point around the kids. I don't want to be so frustrated or angry or tired, but I don't know how to get out of it. Let's be honest, there will be moments where frustration peaks. You're only human. The key is not beating yourself up for it. It's important to acknowledge your feelings and then work on self compassion. Be kinder to yourself. You're doing your best, and even when you lose patience, it doesn't mean you're not a good parent. I recommend looking into mindfulness or anger management strategies to help you keep your emotions in check. Talk openly about your frustrations with your partner or therapist can also help you work through these tough moments and release that pressure. Even small adjustment can help you feel more balanced. Having said that, it's fine if you are expressing your frustrations or losing it in front of your kids sometimes. Kids need to also understand that you are human. Unless you're doing something completely unacceptable, maybe throwing things or screaming, your kids will be fine. They are not going to get traumatized because you're angry at something. I'm very self aware that I'm struggling with some depression and have sought out therapy and I'm on medications to help with this, but feel like it only helps so much. It's so great that you're seeking therapy and medication. Seriously, that's a huge step towards healing, and a lot more parents need to be doing this. But I know it can still feel like the weight doesn't lift completely. The truth is, healing doesn't happen overnight. I would suggest also considering support groups for parents dealing with depression or burnout. Sometimes sharing your feelings in a safe space with others who understand your struggles can be incredibly therapeutic. You don't have to go through this alone. I love both my kids fiercely and wouldn't change a thing. But holy crap, I wish I could see some light at the end of the tunnel. Any advice worth from parents struggling with similar challenges or just an ICU would be appreciated to help me feel less alone in this struggle. Thanks for listening, reading. I hear you. It can feel like you're stuck in the tunnel with no end in sight, as you've said. But I want to share something from my own experience working with kids with developmental disabilities. I have worked with kids who were incredibly challenging, violent, refused to listen, throwing tantrums, and so much more. And let me tell you, I have seen those kids transform over time. And a lot of it is because of the work parents have put in. Here's the thing, behavior can change over time. So, in the past, I worked with a young boy who used to hit his friends. He would refuse to do any kind of work, he would throw tantrums. I was exhausted. His mom was even more so, but we kept pushing through. I spent 2 years working with him, getting to know him, figuring out what made him tick, and eventually things started to click. And after 2 years, when I went to his mom with positive feedback, she broke down crying because it was the first time anyone had told her that her son was doing well. He had actually started engaging and learning. I had another child with similar issues who simply didn't respond to any reinforcements, any rewards. Nothing worked for him. I tried everything. I was at my wits' end, and the stress started affecting me physically. I actually started having panic attacks before I went into work because of this boy. And then something shifted. I broke my knee. And suddenly, this child became my biggest helper. He helped me with everything from climbing the stairs to managing the rest of my group. Before that, he used to run all over the building, running up, running down while I was working with a group of 10 other kids. And suddenly, he saw I was hurt and he stopped all of that completely. He became my biggest helper, assistant, whatever you like to call it. It just goes to show that with time, patience, and the right approach, change can happen. Even when it feels like progress is impossible, keep going. You will see growth, even if it feels slow at times. Sometimes it's about sticking through those difficult moments because you never know when things will click. To the parent who posted this, I want you to know that you're not alone. These challenges are real, but with time, patience, and the right support, things can get better. And to all of you watching, I hope my insights give you a little bit of reassurance and a fresh perspective on handling the tough days. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you'd like to share your own experiences or ask questions. If you ever need more support or want to connect with others who understand these challenges, we're here to help. You can reach out to us through the link in the description. Take care and remember, you're doing great.